Okay, let's dive in. Today, we're really digging into this world Neal Stephenson built, right?
Yeah.
From the Diamond Age.
Yeah, it's an amazing book.
Our source material gives you this incredible glimpse
Yeah.
into a future. I mean, it's shaped by advanced nanotech,
Right.
really complex societies, and these very personal stories.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission really is to pull out the key ideas, maybe find some surprising bits, and just explore, what it means to be human when the world is so heavily engineered.
And what's so brilliant about Stevenson is how that world feels, well, fantastical on one hand, but also really grounded. It feels like a logical extension of where tech could go.
Right.
So we'll be connecting those dots, between the molecular engineering, the social layers, the tribes, and just what people actually experience.
Yeah.
And it makes you ask, like, if anything is possible technologically, what actually holds a society together? What defines people? A world forged by nanotechnology, the invisible infrastructure.
Okay, let's start there. With the tech itself, the sheer ingenuity. You've got structures purifying air and water, almost like nature, but they're built with diamondoid, which is like super hard engineered carbon.
Exactly, diamondoid materials. And it's so common it's actually cheaper than glass in this world.
Cheaper than glass.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about things like Source Victoria, these engineering marvels. It has air intakes like calla lilies.
Yeah, Source Victoria is a great example of what Stevenson calls geotech design. So outwardly, it looks ecological. It mimics nature, like water seeping into sand or air moving silently.
Okay.
But underneath, it's this incredibly precise molecular disassembly line. You've got submicroscopic wheels grabbing individual nitrogen molecules, water molecules, leaving impurities behind.
Wow.
It's not just filtering, it's pure elements, even down to trace elements like carbon and sulfur, handled in these huge cascades of tanks. It's green tech through nanotech, really.
So this control over matter, it filters down to everyday life too, right? The matter compilers.
Oh, absolutely.
Making everything from mattresses to wontons. How does that actually work? And how do they manage all that?
Well, if you zoom out, the feed is the kind of the circulatory system for this whole nanotech economy.
The feed, okay.
Imagine a central pipe, like a vacuum, surrounded by bundles of microscopic conveyor belts. They're carrying the building blocks, atoms, small modules everywhere.
Constantly flowing.
Exactly. And managing it is a huge challenge. Take Hackworth's personal computer. It needs 100,000 watts.
Whoa.
And the solution, it's brilliant, actually. They pull ice from the feed to cool it and output warm water. So it shows that managing the logistics, the energy, is just as complex as inventing the tech itself.
Right. It's not just magic. So nanotech creates, but it also defends.
Yeah.
This world has like a nanoscale immune system, these immunocules and dog pods.
Yeah, security is a huge theme. The dog pod grid is the obvious part. This dome of mirrored balloons, aerostats, spaced close together near the ground, supposedly tight enough to stop a dog.
Okay, visible defense.
But the real defense is maybe more unsettling.
They're microscopic aerostats too, but they infest this buffer zone in the air. They seek and destroy invaders using Darwinian techniques. They evolve into these bizarre, effective killers. Stevenson calls one the naked mole rat of nanotech. It's beyond direct human design. Autonomous, self-improving defense. Pretty chilling.
Yeah, that is chilling. Okay, but there's an even darker side, isn't there? When nanotech goes inside the body. Tell us about these nanocytes.
Right, the internal aspect. The nanocytes are described almost as nanotechnological parasites.
Parasites, okay.
They can be introduced maybe through a spinal tap. They travel up the spinal column and attach to afferent nerves.
The nerves that send pain signals, usually.
Exactly. But the nanocytes can send fake signals, bogus information. So you could have virtual torture, even inflicted on someone whose limbs are gone.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It's a terrifying potential for control, for manipulation. It really blurs the line of what real experience even is. And then, rounding out the tech, we have the seed, which isn't just another gadget. It sounds like a whole different philosophy.
It absolutely is. The seed is positioned as this radical break from the feed system we talked about.
How so?
Well, the idea, particularly for the group called CryptNet, is that seed tech would let matter just sprout organically into anything, houses, food, spaceships. No need for the central feed pipelines.
Sprout, like a plant.
Sort of, yeah. They believe information itself has this mystical power of free flow and self-replication. So they see the feed's protocol, its rules, as oppression.
A completely different way of thinking about matter and information.
Exactly. And this ties into Dr. X's philosophy too, the tea and yang. He's arguing for tech that has a Chinese essence or tea, not just adopting Western tech with its embedded Western values. It's tea. He wants the seed, but on their own terms. It's a deep philosophical clash. 2. Society in flux. Tribes, hierarchies, and beliefs.
Okay, so you have this unbelievably powerful tech. How do people actually live with it? How do they organize? Which brings us to the phyles, these tribes. Let's start with the main one, the Neo-Victorians.
Right. The Neo-Victorians in New Atlantis, their whole thing, built around corporations like Imperial Tectonics, is order, discipline. They explicitly look back to the 19th century for a, quote, stable social model.
Interesting choice.
And you see it everywhere, even how they get their moves. The elites get actual physical newspapers.
On paper, in that tech world.
Yep. It's a status symbol, a way to distinguish themselves from other phyles using digital feeds. And their etiquette is super elaborate. Even waiting rooms have these hidden surveillance mites.
Wow, constant observation.
It suggests this pervasive need for control, for knowing everything, very structured.
Okay, so that's one extreme. Then you have the Celestial Kingdom in China, rooted in Confucian ideas, you said. How do they approach things differently, especially with tech like the seed?
It's a fascinating contrast, yeah. Their core principle is order from above. The idea that the cultivation of the person is the root of everything. Very different emphasis.
Right, internal cultivation versus external structure.
Exactly. And Dr. X, a key figure there, he explicitly argues that Western tech brings a Western essence, a tea, that has historically harmed China, thinking back to things like the Opium Wars.
So they're wary of just importing technology.
Deeply wary. They want the seed technology, its power, but they want it infused with their own too, their own cultural essence. They don't want foreign ideas packaged with the tech.
And this internal focus, it plays out politically too.
Oh, yeah. You have figures like Zhang Hanhua enforcing traditions like kowtowing, liberating labor camp. It's all about internal order and control. It even leads to a civil war against northern parts of China that don't have nanotech. It shows how cultural identity really shapes how they adopt and control this powerful technology.
Okay, so structured Neo-Victorians, culturally focused Celestial Kingdom.
Yeah.
What about the gaps, the least territories?
Yeah.
Places where characters like Bud operate.
Ugh. The least territories, they're painted as much more chaotic, right?
Yeah.
Squalor, danger, a real contrast to the ordered claves.
Yeah.
Bud's whole backstory, his reasons for mugging someone rooted in this self-proclaimed noble heritage in the trailer parks of North Florida, it just highlights a different kind of existence.
Oh, desperate.
Definitely less structured, maybe more brutal. And when he gets caught, the Shanghai police just say, "Don't be jook, this is China." Individual rights seem pretty fluid there.
So even with nanotech everywhere, you still have these pockets of, well, basic human struggle.
Absolutely. And maybe the tech even exacerbates the inequalities if you're outside the main systems.
But then there's one more place, Dovetail, which seems to just reject nanotech completely.
Yeah.
What's their deal with fake things?
Dovetail is fascinating because it's such a deliberate choice, a conscious rejection of all that nanotech permeating the rest of the world.
So what's it like?
Everything there is unique, handmade, real paper from fibrous stew, actual horses, not the fabricated chevelines you see elsewhere.
Real horses.
Yeah, and you see it in the characters, like Rita, who just hates fake things. And Constable Moore, he enforces rules against using matter compilers inside Dovetail.
So it's a whole philosophy.
It is. It values authenticity, craftsmanship, human scale. It's a refuge, really, for people who distrust the nanotech world, offering a totally different way to live, a different kind of prosperity. 3, the human experience in a hyper-technological world.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit to the individual experience. And you can't talk about that without mentioning the Young Lady's Illustrated Primer. It's practically a character itself.
Yeah.
How does this book change things?
The primer. Yeah, it's central. It's this incredible example of personalized learning, truly adaptive education.
How does it adapt?
Well, first, it bonds with the child, imprints their face, their voice. Then it maps these deep universals, archetypes from the collective unconscious onto the child's specific psychology, and it changes as they grow.
Wow, that sounds incredibly advanced, AI-driven.
Here's the really interesting part. For the voice, the narration, it doesn't use AI. It relies on thousands of human actors, ractors, scattered across the globe.
Human actors. Why?
Instantly available, providing the voice. It strongly suggests that even in this super advanced future, maybe AI can't fully replicate genuine human expression, empathy, connection. That human element is still irreplaceable.
That's a powerful idea.
And for Nell, the main character who gets the book, it's completely transformative. It guides her through trauma, helps her learn, helps her become Princess Nell, this leader figure.
So speaking of these ractors, this world of ractives, interactive performances, that's a whole new kind of entertainment, right? What's that like for someone like Miranda, who is a ractor?
The ractive system is another deep dive into blurring lines. It uses nanosites again, poked into the skin, to deliver hyper-realistic sensory input.
So the audience feels what the character feels.
Pretty much, yeah. It totally blurs the line between the performer, the ractor, and the character they're playing. They work from plot trees, creating archetypes. Miranda plays Spirit, often tailored by a marketing computer.
A marketing computer.
Yeah, one that, quote, knows more about this gentleman's taste in girl flesh than he would like to think.
Yikes.
It definitely caters to desires. But for Miranda, being a ractor, it takes a huge emotional toll, playing these intense roles. But it also offers this potential for, I guess, unexpected connection, real insight into people because she's living these roles so intensely.
And that brings us to these bigger questions, doesn't it? About identity, connection. How do people like Hackworth, the primer's designer, or Miranda find themselves or maybe lose themselves in all this tech?
Yeah, if we look at the bigger picture, Hackworth's journey is fascinating and kind of disturbing. He becomes a drummer.
A drummer? What's that?
He gets infested with nanocytes that create a wet net inside his bloodstream, a network within his body.
A wet net.
He ends up existing in this unconscious, dreamlike state, part of a gestalt society with other drummers. They can perform incredible feats, like breaking complex codes, but they lose their individual agency, their free will, it seems.
So loss of self for greater connection or computation.
It raises huge questions about consciousness. And then you have Miranda trying to find Nell later on, which seems statistically impossible given how vast and mediated everything is.
Right.
But the narrative suggests that connections formed through, heart and meaning, they might actually transcend the purely logical or probabilistic systems.
So there's hope for genuine connection.
Maybe, and this idea of the wet net existing alongside the dry net. The regular internet hints at maybe deeper, more organic ways of communicating that tech enables, even paradoxically. It can lead to intimacy or profound alienation. Both seem possible. 4. Fascinating figures in vignettes. A world of contradiction.
Beyond the big tech and the social structures, Stephenson just populates this world with such memorable people. Lord Fingal-McGraw, for instance. He's a nanotech pioneer, but also loves Wordsworth and has this unique take on hypocrisy.
Fingal-McGraw is great, yeah. A real study in contradictions. His background's key. Homeschooled, a nonconformist, loved ancient Greece, apparently went to multiple churches and a synagogue.
So, very curious.
Hugely curious. And maybe that poor attitude towards regular school was what pushed him towards pioneering nanotech.
Makes sense.
And his view on Victorian hypocrisy is really sharp. He basically says the people who complain loudest about hypocrisy often didn't have any moral stance at all.
Interesting point.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if a flawed, structured morality is maybe better than none. He's definitely complex.
Then you've got Constable Moore in Dovetail. We mentioned him earlier. Former nanotech warfare engineer, now living this quiet, almost sad, traditional life. His study feels really poignant.
It really does. It's a powerful look at, well, the aftermath. What happens after you've been involved in that kind of conflict?
His past, serving in nanotech warfare, suffering a dire infestation of privative nanocytes. It's a stark contrast to his present in Dovetail, playing bagpipes, finding solace in whiskey.
Trying to escape it.
Seems like it. But he's still engaged. He shelters Nell. He enforces Dovetail's rules about the primer. He interacts with the outside world when needed. He's trying to hold on to some kind of order, some sanity, while dealing with his own trauma.
It really suggests that maybe even for someone who understands the tech deeply, a simpler, more authentic life might be the only way to cope after seeing its extremes.
I think that's a very fair reading, yeah.
Okay, and one more character to touch on. Carl Hollywood. The Lone Eagle dramaturge, the playwright for the ractives. He ends up being a kind of bridge figure, understanding the drummers.
Carl Hollywood, yeah. He's interesting because he has these roots in older computing, old ways, and this connection to a more rural past. It gives him a unique perspective on the tech landscape as it evolves.
And he figures out what the drummers are doing. He realizes their wet net, this shared consciousness, can break cryptographic codes that are essentially unbreakable otherwise, like turning lead into gold, technologically speaking.
Okay, huge power.
But the kicker is his realization that the drummers themselves, they're no longer interested in having it. They've achieved this incredible power, and they just don't care about the economic or strategic implications anymore.
They've transcended it.
It seems like it. It suggests maybe a kind of transcendence beyond just material gain or power, that maybe the drive for knowledge or connection or whatever the wet net becomes just outweighs those older human drives. It's a really profound idea about collective intelligence. Outro.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive into the Diamond Age. It really shows how a world built on these, incredibly advanced concepts still ends up wrestling with the most fundamental human questions. Identity, community, purpose. It's such a dense, rich book.
It really is. And I think it challenges us, It suggests that as tech races forward, the cultural choices, the ethical choices we make about how we use it become even more critical than just imagining what can be done.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And that final image of Nell, leading her mouse army, choosing a crust for her building that features a book, crossed keys, and a seed, it feels very intentional, choosing knowledge, access, and that potential for organic growth.
Values, basically, in a tech world.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you, listening, for us? I guess this deep dive leaves me with maybe a provocative thought to chew on. In our own age, with technology advancing so fast, how do we tell the difference between real connection and, well, simulated reality? And maybe more importantly, how do we make sure that chasing technological possibility doesn't accidentally flatten out or diminish the richness of our actual human experience? Something to think about.